Hello everybody, and welcome back to All the Mods 10. In the previous episode, we finally got our energy situation mostly sorted, and we are now producing energy in a few different ways. Namely, the windmills that are over there, the giant windmill up here that's using crate and an alternator, and we even have this singular tiny solar panel. We also went through the power mod and got a few upgrades. The biggest of which is a wireless network that we can transfer power into and out of. So we have this Niotic Ender cell here, and it's actually able to store 2 billion FE in total. And as you can see, we are producing thousands of FE per tick. Right now we have about 174 million FE, and it is slowly increasing. We also have this little mechanism set up here as well. This basically turns ores into ingots, but it's able to, I believe, triple the ore output. And it is definitely a good thing that we got that set up as well, because our bees are now producing raw blocks of copper. So this is where our output currently is for our bee system here. I did add a stacking upgrade as well as a compacting upgrade to this barrel. That way we use less slots overall. Yeah, we can actually take some of these blocks of raw gold, for example, and just put it through the system here, and it will begin to purify it, eventually turning it into gold ingots. I also went through and made sure to connect each of these beehives up to a sort of a central system over here. That's where the storage controller is, and it contains basically all of the items here. These are just linked to each of the different framed drawers throughout the base. And in between episodes, I just went through and basically added a few of the different actual ores that we can produce right now. So we have iron, gold, copper, and aluminum, as well as lapis and redstone. And this slot here is reserved for diamonds, but unfortunately we actually can't make a diamond bee yet, because it actually requires the ender bee, which means that we would have to go to the end first. And I'm not quite ready to go to the end just yet. I feel like we're a little bit underprepared for that. So what I want to do in today's episode is actually build up our applied energistic system and move it up here to this peninsula where we have all of our other buildings. And I want it to at least be able to start auto-crafting a few things. So I think I'm going to start by building out the building here. Probably only going to work on the first floor. I imagine this building to be almost a skyscraper. I feel like it's going to be at least 3 to like maybe 7 floors tall. But yeah, I have plans for it, but I don't know if I have the time or materials to build it all right now. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get started on the first floor, and then I'll see you in a little bit. But before I do that, I do want to just give a quick tip here, and this is going to help me with building as well. If you have a wireless crafting terminal in AE, if you click on the wireless terminal settings, you can actually enable this pick block setting right here. And so you'll notice my inventory has no items in it. And then if I just middle click, it'll actually pull the items out of our applied energistic system. And yeah, it actually gives you pretty much any block as long as you have it in the system. And that's going to be very useful for building. So yeah, anyway, let me get started. here we are with the semi-completed build. I've completed the first 2 floors, but we still need to go, probably I'm thinking 3 more. But we have the sort of the lobby completed right now, as well as the facade for the place. I went with this clear blue stained glass. It's the same as we used over there, but I'm just alternating it with glass panes and the full block, and it gives it kind of this nice vertical look that I really like. We're using smooth inlaid diorite for the floors here, and just have these glass panes as sort of a railing. So as we walk inside, you'll notice it's pretty open, and it kind of gives a little bit of like mall vibes, I would say. So we have various planters around the place with moss blocks inside, and I'm just using the framed blocks to kind of help give some of them some more shape. We also have these dining benches from Handcrafted, and I really like these. These you can actually sit in, and they give kind of a nice appearance and help sort of bring the whole vibe of the place more into a realistic setting. Because all of the white concrete is a little bit flat in terms of color, right? Like most of them only use maybe 2 or 3 colors, but if you use wood alongside it, it helps sort of bring it back. So we're also using these illuminate blocks from Simply Light. I really like these, and we're actually using them here as well inside of, I think these are framed walls, yeah. And yeah, they actually still give off light in the walls, which is pretty neat. And we're using those in various places as well. And these lights here are actually dynamic edge lights. These ones are really cool. I really like those. Up on the walls here, I thought the walls were a little bit plain, so I added these sort of mega planters almost. These are just filled with moss blocks, and then we have mossy stone every once in a while with a mossy stone wall for decoration. Down here on the first floor as well, we have these spaces off to the sides. I don't know quite what I want to do with these. These might end up being additional auto crafting areas. I'm not 100% certain, but I did kind of design them after like sort of a mall McDonald's, or just a mall store in general, where you have sort of this open floor, and then you can just walk inside. Next up is the elevators, and these are pretty simple. I just realized I forgot this wall. So we just have the elevators from the elevator mod right here in the middle. And then you just jump up and you get to the second floor. These are just mirrored on either side and also have planters next to them there. The shop that's on the right side here actually has a door to the outside. And that's just to get to the rest of the facilities a little bit more quickly. Like we can get over here to Hive like right away rather than having to go all the way through the door like that. It's just a quicker way, and I think it still makes sense here. This back section of the center here is a little bit blank, and that's kind of on purpose. I actually have something that I want to do with this. We'll get to that in just a little bit here. But yeah, this I do want to have this sort of displaying items from our storage. So now we can go up to the second level, and here it is. It's mostly just sort of a balcony area. But here in the middle is where I want to set up my controller for our ME system. ME controllers can end up being pretty big, so that's why we have this big space here. I'm going to have it sort of in between the floors, just sort of suspended here. Yeah, it'll kind of look like a chandelier almost, hanging from the ceiling from there. We also have additional side rooms here. This is where we're mostly going to be auto crafting, and we'll probably have our furnaces set up here so that we can quickly smelt items. But yeah, I think that's most of what has been done for this shopping mall. And in fact, it isn't even really a shopping mall so much as it is a global operations of observation, and biotech. So this is sort of the head of where we're going to be doing all of our research. So that's kind of what the name is about. And this building has been named in dedication to our first channel member, Plxgue, which is why we chose the goob as the name. So yeah, shout out to Plxgue and thank you for your support. Now would also be a nice time to ask you to like the video and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton and lets me know that you guys are enjoying the content. If you want to go one step further, why not consider becoming a channel member? It's the best way to support me directly, and you get access to all of my videos early. Right now I have a catalog of about 4 or 5 more episodes that are out currently, so it's definitely a great time to catch up with those. So what I want to do now is move our ME system over here and get it set up again in a way that hopefully won't disrupt any activities. Now, our mob farm is directly connected to our storage system, which means it's probably going to need to be off for now unless we can make a wireless, let's see here, these wireless connectors from Extended AE. These will basically allow you to set up additional channels. It doesn't look too bad. This is probably doable. We need entro infused ingots, which entro dust, entro crystals. It's a little bit of a path, but what I might do is just shut down the mob farm for a little bit while we're working on this and get everything set up. We also have the matter of all of our storage. It's currently set up in drawers and some item vaults. So I think what I want to do very first right now is actually get some storage disks. We'll need to get a few of these disks all set up. I think these are the ones that I'm thinking of. There might also be ones that are more similar to refined storages, where it's a little less limited. By the way, here is our current sort of storage setup right now. We just have these drawers on the walls that are filled with various types of items. These are the bulk items, and then inside of these item vaults is where we have basically everything else. The items that we don't have a lot of, and yeah, that aren't sorted over here, they'll just eventually end up inside of these item vaults. But I want to go for something a little more compact now, which is why we're going to be investing in our energy cells. And by energy cells, I actually mean item cells. There are energy cells in this mod, by the way. I don't quite see them right now. Yeah, these ones right here will actually allow you to store energy inside of your system, which can get pretty crazy. So I think I want to start off by just making a few of these item storage cells. These are just the 1K versions. We have a lot of items that we don't have a lot of, so we'll probably not use more than a few types on each cell, as well as not a lot of bytes. By the way, types just means different types of items. So for example, a type would be leather scraps or slime balls, and then the bytes is the amount of that item. So we have 6,000 leather scraps. That would completely overfill one of these 1K item storage cells by itself. But where these 1Ks actually shine is storing all of the items that we have down here at the bottom of the list, where we only have like 1 or 2 of. Yeah, those will get sucked into the system really quickly. By the way, to store these disks, we are going to need to craft an ME drive, which is not going to be too bad. We're going to need a couple of engineering processors, some Plxgue crystals, and iron ingots. This is all stuff that we've done before, so it shouldn't be too bad. We are pretty low on diamonds right now, though, so it might be a bit of a crunch. The power for down here as well is just running off of our old windmill / water mill from Create. And by the way, once we get our new system set up, all of these should be completely automatable. So we won't have to do these by hand anymore, which is going to be so nice. But there we have it. There's our ME drive. This can hold up to 10 disks, and I think I'm just going to completely fill this one up with 1K drives, which are a little more complicated to craft. We are going to need these 1K ME storage components, which each require a logic processor, which fortunately we have a ton of gold. And I've just crafted an additional inscriber, and this one's just going to be completely dedicated to making silicon. And now we should be able to craft all of our 1K ME storage components and immediately convert those into our storage cells. Definitely make sure that these are the correct ones. Sometimes I'll accidentally craft the wrong ones, but I think those are correct. So I'm just going to temporarily hook up I think my backpack just grabbed that. I'll hook up the drive to our network right now. And what I want to do with our item vaults is basically replace the storage buses here with import buses. That'll basically put the items, it'll pull the items from the item vaults and put them into the network. So I'll get our storage drives inside. And I'm just going to replace that storage bus with the import bus here. So that should now be pulling items into the system, and it definitely is. It's going to take quite a while to actually sort of get all of the items in here. We can craft speed upgrades to make this a little bit quicker as well. So I've got a few acceleration cards in the importers now, and it is definitely cooking pretty quickly now. We've already filled up 3 drives and working on the 4th. And this drive filled up pretty quickly, and we still have a ton of items inside of the vaults, unfortunately. So we'll probably need to make a few more of these drives. But I'm currently completely out of diamonds, so I think I'm going to go down to the mines. Unfortunately, we can't automate diamonds quite yet until we go to the end, and we're definitely not ready for that quite yet. All right, it looks like this vault has been completely emptied. Nice. So we're just waiting on the other one now, which, yeah, still pretty full. We have an additional 10 drives here, and they're already all full. Great. So we'll probably need at least a third of these ME drives. And it looks like this item vault is also cleared out now. It just filled in about 1, almost 2 more of these storage cells. So really not too bad. It is kind of crazy how many items those item vaults from Create can actually store. They're definitely a great early game option for applied energistic storage. So I'm just going to clear my inventory now and begin the process of moving everything from here over to the new system. By the way, I do have a plan for everything else here. It's going to take some time to move these over though. So when we break these drives, all of the disks inside should scatter. Yeah, so we'll have to carry each of these individually, which is very nice if you have a backpack, but it can be kind of annoying if you don't have one. So let's see, we have all that. Let me get the ME controller and the end gate next. And I might just shapeless these smart cables. There we go. And we can now pick up all of our inscribers. And I think I'll leave these budding Certus quartzes here for now. I will harvest them just because they're ready to be harvested. So the way that I'm going to design my new controller is pretty complicated. So I'm just going to place my old controller here, and we'll just give it power from none of the sides are that good for a permanent solution, but we'll just put it on that side for now. So there's our ME controller up and running now. I'll probably want all of our drive disks inside of this room over here. There we go, and now we can go ahead and pull our cable. I'm not entirely sure how I want to do the cabling here. I'll probably just bring it up to the roof. Oh, and then just, at least for now, bring a cable upwards. And there we go. I fixed it a little bit so it looks a little bit better there. So now we have our controller and our storage. We just need to get a few things like the wireless access point is probably the most important thing right now. That way we can still access our system from anywhere. I think that'll work on these smart cables. It does. And there we go. Linked network can't be found. That's because we need to rebind the terminal. And there we go. Nice. By the way, each of these drives does take a channel, so that's something important to note, especially if you're setting up a new system. So we have 5 additional channels. That should be enough for our inscribers to be here and our charger. And I guess I was wrong about this. I thought that the inscribers could actually access power from your applied energistic system, but I guess they can't. So what we'll need to do is get some more cables for here. Also, by the way, I do want to replace the end gate on our controller with a blazing end gate. These are 20,000 FE per tick, whereas the other one is 500 FE per tick. We're definitely going to need the boost in power, especially when we set up our new system and everything. Advanced universal cables from Mechanism mixed with an end gate from Powa should be enough to power all of these systems. Eventually, I do want these to be completely automated though, so we'll have to find a different solution and place for these in the future. And the reaction chamber will need a sink placed there, just like that, just to fill it up with water. All right, and I've just decided to move our controller. That way we have access to all of the sides, and that way we can actually split up our channels a little bit as we sort of get into the next phase. And that next phase is autocrafting. I want to make a few additional frame drawers for our system so we can display our bulk items. But to do that, it's going to take a little while, and I'd rather just have the computer do it itself. So that means that we're going to need to actually go through and craft a few things here. So we're going to need blank patterns, the pattern encoding terminal, which allows us to write the patterns, as well as the pattern access terminal, which basically allows us to add our patterns to the system. So here's our pattern encoding terminal, and the pattern access terminal is going to require a pattern provider, which we'll be crafting quite a few of these in the future. And there's our pattern access terminal. So I'll just go ahead and place these on our system just like this. By the way, for each of these different versions, there is a wireless crafting terminal version. And there's even an all-in-one version where we can access everything at the same time that we'll probably eventually craft as well. So the pattern encoded terminal is where we actually assign recipes. For example, the first thing that you should always assign is the blank pattern. So we just go ahead and click on it and then click encode pattern just like that. That will show a recipe here with the end result there. And when you press the encode pattern, which we're not going to be able to do quite yet, as we're going to need at least one blank pattern to get us started. There we go. And now we can encode that pattern. And when we click encode pattern, it will actually create the crafting pattern. So what we do with the crafting pattern is insert it into our pattern access terminal. Unfortunately, we don't have anywhere for it to go quite yet. So we're going to need to craft another ME pattern provider and a molecular assembler. The molecular assembler basically acts as an automatic crafting table. And in order to actually process our crafts, we're going to need a crafting co-processing unit as well as some crafting storage. So to craft the crafting co-processing unit, we do need a crafting unit, which is just made with the following materials there. So here's our crafting co-processing unit, as well as a 1K crafting storage. So I think I'll set up my molecular assembler and ME pattern provider right here over on this side. You can have a total of 8 total of these blocks in a section. So all we need to do now is hook it up into the system, just like that, and you'll notice that it's on when it starts turning into RGB. So yeah, this molecular assembler is online and it carries the signal through to the pattern provider. The pattern provider is where we want to put our crafting pattern. Alternatively, we can actually insert it in through our pattern access terminal, and this will actually display all of your available crafting devices. So now if you open up your crafting terminal, you'll notice that your new recipe is actually inside of the terminal. And it has a little plus sign here, and when you actually click on it, you'll get to choose how many that you actually want to craft. We can just try to craft one for now, but you'll notice that we are missing a few things, namely a couple of ingredients, but more importantly right here is that we don't have any crafting CPUs available. And that's where our crafting co-processing unit actually comes into play. So we just add that to our network as well, and we actually need to add the 1K crafting storage on top first, as the CPU can't actually connect into the network directly, but we should be able to put that down on the bottom there, and now it's online. These textures will connect if you've done it correctly. And by the way, I also think that quartz glass is a pretty good thing to also have as a pattern. So now we can go ahead and test it with a craft, and we now have a crafting CPU available, as well as all of the materials. You'll notice that it also needs to craft for quartz glass, and it will do that process before crafting this. So if we hit start, it'll just take a little moment, and there we go. We have our blank patterns. These will also be pinned to the top, our crafting recipes will, and that's just for easier access. And if you want to craft more of the same item that you already have inside of your system, you can actually just middle click on it, and it will actually allow you to select a few more. So I'm going to craft probably about 10, and it goes pretty quickly. Another recipe I highly recommend getting in your system is the Plxgue Smart Crystals, and for that we are going to need a few things as well. And there are certain items where multiple items could be used instead. Like if a recipe requires glass and you have blue glass in your system, what you can do is hit the substitutions disabled and click it over to enabled. That way any item that is of the same type can be used in the recipe. So I'll go ahead and encode that pattern. And now we can get the ME glass cables. Next up is the covered cables. Now these are gonna require any type of wool. So we'll go ahead and encode that. And last up, the Plxgue smart cables. I'm also gonna add pattern providers to our automatic crafting recipes as well, and molecular assemblers, just because we're gonna need a ton of both. These also require annihilation cores and formation cores. But we have already run out of room in our first molecular assembler. And I've just set up another molecular assembler and pattern provider, so now we have a little more room for recipes. So I'm wanting to actually now automate our processors, and I'm actually going to craft the Inscriber Universal Press, which basically is an all-in-one. We can make the silicon, logic processors, engineering processors, and calculation processors all in a single machine. So now I can, for example, throw some diamonds inside of the inscriber and it'll work. And we can do that with any of the other types of presses. So now what I want to do is actually hook these up with pattern providers. I'm going to hook this into the system with some more smart cables just like that. And do note that these do now take a channel. And now what we want to do, I believe, is actually change it over to processing patterns mode, which allows you to essentially add custom recipes to this. So I can place a diamond in here and a printed engineering circuit on the output and encode that now instead. And we actually want to put it inside of the pattern provider that's touching our inscriber, just like that. And we should also be able to just drag and drop from JEI into the pattern encoder so that we don't actually need the output of a recipe to actually craft it. So I'm going to test this out by requesting some printed logic circuits. I'll request about 10 of those, and it should start to craft. We'll see that they go inside of this inventory, and they should return as well. it might need to wait until the process is done. And we just needed to change the inscriber to auto export mode. And you'll notice that when an autocraft is finished, it'll actually appear in the top right corner. That's just a nice way to know when your crafts are done. So now we can go ahead and automate the next step for this as well. This is going to be a little more complicated because it does require a few more ingredients, but we should just keep it on the processing patterns mode and be able to do something like that. I think, so this is actually in a priority system. So the first item in this pattern encoder will be the first item inside. I don't know if it matters the order for these specifically. We can try it out. We might just need to reverse the silicon and engineering circuit, but we'll see how that turns out. And now we can go ahead and insert these patterns into our pattern provider for this inscriber and request, let's say, some calculation processors. And we are missing a little bit of silicon, so we should add that as a recipe as well. I'll probably eventually set a B up for this, but we can actually just use Certus quartz dust or even just regular quartz inside of a furnace. And I think I'll use our diamond furnace that we already have set up and actually add a pattern provider for it. And we'll turn 1 quartz into 1 silicon. Nice. So now we can request our, let's go with logic processors actually. And we have everything and we can start that up and we should see, yep, this smelting, providing our silicon, and that'll go back into the system. That will start pressing here inside of the inscriber as this starts working on our logic processors. Now this one also needs to be set to auto export. And I think I want to automate acceleration cards as well. Those will be extremely useful for pretty much every machine in this mod. And there we go. And these can actually be added into our regular pattern providers because they're just regular crafts. And now I would like to be able to automate our 1K ME storage drives. So we're going to need the storage component, and this is a regular crafting recipe, just like that. And our ME item drive, just like that. Nice. So we have 6 slots left on our ME drive here, so I'm going to go ahead and request 6 of these. There we go. And ooh, Certus quartz is something we need to automate. You'll notice whenever you get started with autocrafting that you realize a lot of things can be autocrafted, and you get in sort of a loop where you're automating things that need to be automated that can automate other things, and yeah, it's very fun and addicting. You can also actually monitor the crafting status using the crafting co-processing unit itself just by right-clicking, and it'll actually show you how much time is left on your craft, what's currently scheduled, and what needs to be crafted. So I've just added our recipe for our framed drawers. So we basically craft chests into our oak drawers, into frame drawers, and then we add the concrete, and I think this was skystone, yeah, to the front of the frame drawer there. So now I want this to actually begin to request our frame drawers. We have everything that we need to make a stack of these. So let's see how long it takes. Surprisingly pretty quick. I think that's mostly because we're pretty much only using crafters. We don't really need to rely on any other machines like furnaces or the inscribers or anything like that. So yeah, that's pretty quick. And it requires basically no effort on my part, which is the part that I really enjoy about this. So while I wait for those to craft up, I do want to go back to the base and basically begin to disassemble all of these. I think what I'm going to do is just take all of the drawers themselves. Hopefully we have enough room. We do. Take the controller, and then what I'll do is basically the same we did with the item vaults, where we just imported it into the system. So we'll set up our new drawers and get everything kind of figured out there, and then we'll pull the items out from these drawers. And this will be pretty nice for actually figuring out the amount of items that we need inside of these drawers, as well as where items go, and I guess how many drawers we're going to end up needing. And for some reason, it seems really stuck on 37 frame drawers. Did it run out of iron nuggets? It still has plenty in the system. I might give this a cancel. And by the way, you can do math inside of this box right here. So we already have 37. We need 64, so that's 27. Let's see if that'll actually start to process now. That's a long time. What is happening? I'm not entirely sure why. Yeah, this is kind of weird. It seems to be struggling a lot with these frame drawers for some reason. Let me see if I can modify this pattern. If I put it in here, I think I can modify it. No. I think I'll disallow substitutions for this one. I think maybe it's getting stuck with the drawer, doesn't really know what to do with it. Let's see if that helped my theory. I think it was this one. Alright, so I reloaded my world, and I also changed the iron nugget pattern and the iron ingot pattern to not allow substitutions. I think it was actually these that were messing with it. I didn't actually test it before, but here we go. We now have our 64 framed drawers. And what I want to do with these is actually have almost a wall TV here, kind of looking like a almost like a billboard, but just stacks and stacks of TV monitor thingies here. Sort of in a semi-random pattern. I don't want these looking too like uniform or anything like that. I think something like that should look pretty good. So here we are with this pattern. It's sort of a random display. It almost kind of looks like something that was painted onto the wall, which I really like. But now we're going to go ahead and just start inserting our various items into the wall. A little something like this. A little haphazard. Nothing too specific on where everything goes. So I have quite a few items here that are now sort of semi-organized. Obviously there's a few blank spaces for additional items down the road. I've also added this second set of, I believe it's also 64 of these drawers. And we'll add some more items over on this side. Right now it's mostly just mob drops. But I've linked this controller up to all of the drawers that are on this wall. This controller is currently linked to all of these ones. And what I want to do is, first off, I'm not entirely sure if this will work. It should, but we should be able to just pull all of the items out of this drawer. And we should see them start to appear in here. It looks like they are. Possibly. It's kind of hard to tell if it is pulling out. Looks like 4 items every 20 ticks, so it's going to be a little slow. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing the essence right there increasing, so it's definitely going to work. So what we're doing now basically is just emptying out all of these drawers into our new slots here. And now we're essentially doing the same for the applied energistics system. I've just set up an export bus here as well. That'll be pulling items out of the ME system and into their proper place inside of the storage system. This should only pull out items that, you know, have a spot here, so it's not going to pull out random items. But it should clear out a ton of space on our disks. So now that we've cleared out all of the old drawers, we can go ahead and tear down this very temporary system of cables, hopefully. Oh, I didn't think about that. Did that take all of them? Yeah, pretty much. I didn't think about that. What I was going to say is we can now move our storage controller, and I want to put it down into the ground, probably around here-ish. That way it's still pretty easily accessible. And then I'm gonna run a cable on, I'm not entirely sure which end. Maybe coming out of this side and then going into the wall or something. I'm not 100% certain. I gotta get these cables back in place though. I didn't think those would actually auto mine because these are the smart cables and I was just mining the glass cables. So that's definitely something to note if you're also rebuilding an AE system. So I have it hooked up to the system now, but we need to actually get our storage drawers actually connected together. Let's see. There we go. We're gonna need at least one of these gold upgrades. I'm not entirely sure what the range will be now. I think that's good enough. Let's see. Yeah, I think that encapsulate. Oh yeah, that's definitely big enough. That takes up the entire building. So that's pretty good now. So I'll just have to go through and link each of these drawers up. It shouldn't be too bad. And now that those are all linked up, when we open our inventory, we can see all of our items that are linked up here in the side of the drawers. But I do think we're gonna need to end things there for today. This episode is extremely long, but it definitely feels nice to have auto crafting finally set up in this world. But I'm gonna leave things there for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.